Why is it that this lowly generation was given the great test of being unable to see their Rebbe?
I understand that there was a Messiah from back from Alter Rebbe who said that there would be such a period before Mashiach came. And the second thing is, nobody asked us. No one's asking us, right? The Balabas is the Eibishter. And the Eibishter does what he wants. And this is what the Eibishter wanted. Now we know from the Siches, the Rebbe said it about the Friedrich Rebbe, and that we say it about the Rebbe, of course, that nothing happens in the life of the Rebbe without Ritzeni, without his acquiescence, without his agreeing. The Rebbe said that if not, that the Yud Shvat would not have happened, Shalei B'Ritzeni from the Rebbe. If the Friedrich Rebbe had not wanted it, Yud Shvat would not have been. So the same is true at Gimel Tammuz. If the Rebbe would not have wanted it, it wouldn't have been. And there's actually a letter from the Rebbe, which I think is written to your Zayda, but written to an Elter Chassid who complained after Yud Shvat that the Rebbe should be Makabel the Nesiyas, and the Rebbe was not ready to be Makabel the Nesiyas. And the Rebbe wrote him, "Was wird sein, weiß ich nicht. So da noch Sachen, was ich weiß nicht." So of the Rebbe Sachrayas, which means in English, what's going to be, I don't know. There's many things I don't know. But what I do know is that the responsibility lies with the Rebbe. And the same is true here. Was wird sein, weiß ich nicht. So da sag Sachen, was wir wissen nicht. Aber es dem Rebbe Sachrayas, what happens is the Ratzon of the Eibishter. In the case of the Rebbe, it's the Ratzon of the Rebbe. And the Rebbe himself allowed Gimel Tammuz to happen because he felt that it needs to happen. And this is the Rebbe's Achrayas. It's not our Achrayas, it's the Rebbe's Achrayas. So I can't answer that question. I have no way of answering that question. I think it's very interesting. If you think about it, it's fascinating. And I don't mean to sound like a scholar or an intellectual. The Eibishter has put Yidden into what really amounts to the ultimate goals of Ashiras. Jewish people, for the most part, are living in safe countries. They're safe. And they're rich. And they're living in the big cities, not living in Shtetlach. And there's no Gedei Yisrael. You know, the Holocaust was a decapitation. The Holocaust took away the best of the Jewish people, and the Jewish nation was left orphaned on every imaginable level. And the Eibishter has this experiment. He's going to have a generation of Jews with the smallest neshamas, with the greatest nisyenis, with very, very limited leadership, and they have to bring Mashiach. They have to do tshuva. They have to serve the Eibishter. People say cynically, the Eibishter sense of humor. This idea that the Eibishter believes that our generation is going to win our battle, or to say it in very practical terms, that we will do tshuva with all of the unbelievable hardships that our generation faces spiritually. Right? The From community is facing today, the Charedim is facing an enormous challenge from the external world. And the reason they're facing such an enormous challenge from the external world, because the external world is not external anymore. It's their own living room, it's their own dining room, it's their own kitchen, it's their own phone. And the Eibishter believes that this generation will do tshuva. That this generation will do tshuva. The Gemara speaks about it, the Rambam Paskins, the kind of tshuva which is going to justify Bias HaMashiach. The Eibishter believes that. For Haraya, the Eibishter created this scenario that there should be such a situation of Helen V'Hester, and we have to figure it out for ourselves. If you think about it from that perspective, it's unbelievable what the Eibishter thinks a Yid can achieve. And it's not so crazy to say that we'll succeed, that it will be Taka Didan Notzach, that the Yidden of this generation, with all the Halamas stated, will in fact do tshuva, but I want to say one more thing, which I think is also very serious. And that is the following. If you remember the 80s, the MEMS, the Rabbi used to scream about Mashiach a lot, an awful lot. There were so many siches. How did we view all of those siches that the Rebbe screamed about Mashiach then? We used to see those sichos as conversations between the Rebbe and the Eibishter that we were privy to listen into. We never personalized those sichos. And there's so many of them. We never seriously appreciated that the Rebbe was saying anything to us. The Rebbe is screaming Ad Mosai. So who's he saying Ad Mosai to? To the Eibishter. And then of course he asked that we should say Ad Mosai also. But if you'll go back to those sichos and listen to them and read them again, you'll learn something that in a very serious way went over our heads. And there's two steps here. Number one, the Rebbe wanted us to seriously want Mashiach. We should want Mashiach. And not only we should want Mashiach because he wants Mashiach, we should want Mashiach because we want Mashiach. And then on top of that, the Rebbe added a second idea. And the Rebbe wanted that we should actually bring him. And of course, we would laugh to ourselves, not chas v'sholem in disrespect, but say, come on, I'll bring Mashiach. And the Rebbe would say, yeah, it's a Rambam Mefureshes. That also Maisa achas, Dibur achas, Machshava achas, Hechriyas atzme, Veskol Eilim Kula Kaf Schus, Vehevi Level Hem, that Yeshua Vatzola. The Rebbe would say that Rambam over and over and over again, and he'd bring the Gemara Masech Kedushin, that Hamakadosh es Isha Manashu Tzadik Gomer. And he's a Rosh Gomer, Reizah Mukudeshes, a Sofer Mukudeshes, Shemei Hira Tshuva Believe. They used to quote these Gemaras, these halachas. It was poetry to us. It was nice Werter. And it frustrated the Rebbe to no end. It was bothering the Rebbe very deeply that we were not listening. The Rebbe was not having a conversation with the Eibishter. He was having a conversation with us. And the conversation was, you have to want Mashiach, and not just because I do. And ultimately it became not only you have to want Mashiach, you have to bring Mashiach. Now I'm not trying to explain Gimel Tammuz. But there's no question that Gimel Tammuz has made Chassidim stop, B'chlal Yidden, and understand what the Rebbe was saying. That we want Mashiach now. Right? We want Mashiach now. I want Mashiach. You want Mashiach because of Gimel Tammuz. And again, I'm not going to, God forbid, suggest that Gimel Tammuz this is the reason for Gimel Tammuz. But there's no question, this is one of the consequences of Gimel Tammuz. Mashiach had become very personal to us. And it was very important to the Rebbe that Mashiach should become very personal to us. So if I have to summarize what I just said, the Eibishter has left a generation like ours, orphaned. And he expects us to do tshuva. And we will. We'll all do tshuva. And he expects us to want Mashiach to such a degree that will actually bring Mashiach.